welcome back to Sport Untold. Today is a bit of a different one. I'm joined by Alex Hyman, my classmate. How are you, Alex?
Good, thanks, mate. Yeah, all good.
Good. You are Cardiff Met #1 tennis player. Let's just put that out there straight away.
Somehow, yeah.
Somehow you're #1 tennis player. Firstly, can you just talk us a little bit about how you got to that point?
Yeah. How did I get there? Well, I guess the obvious reason is that it was my rating and ranking that got me to the top. I think, if technically speaking, that's why. But I guess leading up to it, I mean, yeah, tennis has been the main part of my life, to be honest. So until recently, but yeah, grew up, started playing around probably 4 or 5 years old, pretty young. And then it just gradually got more serious. I just loved it. But I played a lot of football, a bit like yourself.
Yeah.
And then like a lot of sort of sports athletes do, they sort of choose one that they want to take further. Played throughout my teenage years, went to an academy in Somerset where I mixed tennis with school, and then went to America for a year to start university, and then came here to Cardiff Met, and I guess all that led up to me playing for the team here.
So you say until recently. What's kind of happened recently means you've kind of not been as into the tennis side?
Yeah, I think I do find it a difficult one with tennis because I hate the fact that once you sort of are past that stage of really having it as a goal to take it any further into the professional ranks or, something like that, it's sort of just your focus has to go away from it. I guess that's fair enough. But for me, I love that other sports, for example, like hockey, I know a little bit better because my girlfriend plays really good hockey. And there's just in that sort of ecosystem there, you can still play really good club level and it can still be a big focus of your life. Whereas I think for tennis, I feel like if I was to play a lot now, there'd be no point because I just wouldn't be playing for much more than just that small thing of club and stuff. I think the club level isn't as good. So yeah, I guess that's changed. Like my goals going further have just sort of have stopped, and my I guess my goals have turned to more sports broadcasting and stuff like that, and what we're doing here.
At what age do you kind of come to that decision a little bit of, if you're not going to be the best at tennis, you're not really going to make it? What kind of age did you kind of start to realise that, do you reckon?
I think probably it's a difficult one with tennis players because I think you sort of have to be a little bit... you sort of have to hide from the truth a little bit because you've got to fake it until you sort of make it, essentially. So if I was being honest with myself, probably around 15, 16, you have to be very good. You have to be competing really, I think, like internationally. And I was good nationally, but internationally, probably not. I think some people would disagree with that and say, some people develop later. But yeah, I think I was a hard worker, but talent-wise, I don't think I was necessarily had the talent to go all the way. So yeah, if I'm being honest, probably 16, 17, but my realisation really came to me around, probably leaving US college, so probably around 20 years old, so a couple of years ago.
And what was it like to kind of go over to America and play tennis over there?
Yeah, it was really good, I mean, it came short for me because I only did a year and I was planning to do 4 years.
Okay.
That's the general length of the degrees out there, and then you mix it with tennis. But it was quality. Like the team atmosphere is really good. I mean, everyone knows that American sports are just so good. Like the team atmosphere is unreal, and that was the best part for me. Just mixing with different nationalities. We had Mexicans, we had Spaniards, English, Swedish, all sorts. So that was really really good fun, and it's taught me a lot about I mean, I've lived away from home for quite a long time because in my teenage years I was away as well, but it was a different sort of living away from home. It was because it was so far. You can't just get in the car for a couple of hours.
Can't just pop home, can you?
Yeah, exactly. So it taught me a lot about working with the team, and also college sports is a big thing now, especially in the world we're in. Like it's big.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, you see the American football college games out there. They're selling out 90, 100,000 seat stadiums. Yeah. What kind of difference did you notice from UK sport when you went over there to American sport? You just said like the size of it and the crowds and everything. What other differences did you kind of find out there?
I think they just take it so much more seriously than us. I think I don't know whether that's because there's more money to invest in it or there's more sort of backing from governing bodies or just universities. I'm not sure, but like I didn't suddenly get better at tennis when I went to America,
No.
but all of a sudden there was just so much more surrounding us. Like we got free kit when we joined the team. The training sessions there was so much more of them compared to here. The travel was so much more extensive than there is here. And that was for tennis. That wasn't a big sport at the university. Like if you played for the American football team, like there's a lot. You're sort of like the rugby team here, where you're known around campus. Like everyone sort of looks up to you. You're a bit of an icon around campus. And I don't know, but like the university I went to, like it was, this is a really really sporty university, and I wouldn't say Lenore Rhine, where I went to, was necessarily more sporty, but you could feel there was more, more around sport and more people just that loved it.
What was the talent like tennis wise there? Obviously, you're Met number one here. What was it kind of like? Was it you one of the lower players, or was it more like you were still on top there?
I played number 3 in singles, and then played 2 doubles. So. Yeah, a little bit further down, but there's a bigger team in America, so there's six players instead of 4 here. I was sort of middle of the park sort of level, but it was probably a better level and definitely more in depth as well.
So then talk to me out. So after the 1 year, you came back to the UK, is that right?
Yeah.
And then you came to Cardiff Met after that.
Yeah.
What was the reason in there for kind of joining Cardiff Met?
Well, like I said before, I think I sort of had to take a step back after America and think, right, sort of reassess my goals and what I wanted to do over the next few years. I could kind of tell that tennis, I still wanted to play like a decent amount. I was only like 20, so I still thought I could really have a good few years of competing at that point. So I was like, right, how can I still compete and play decent tennis, but also start getting into this sports media broadcasting world? Because that was when I really started to think, that could be a nice industry to go in. And Cardiff Met had just started the sports media course that we both did, and I was the first year of that. Yeah. So it came into fruition, and then that's really why, because it was just the mixture of sports media and tennis, and I was like, perfect. I'll be one of the best players there, so that's quite nice. You're going in I'll get good matches at number 1, and then there's something to build on there as well. So
a bit of a common theme that's come up before on this podcast is the broadcast media side. A lot of people say not that you weren't good enough, that when you realise, I'm not actually going to make it, you kind of come to the other side of the broadcasting side of it to kind of still feel involved with it a little bit. Broadcasting side of it, obviously you've done a lot of it. You've been to Thailand to commentate. How was that, firstly?
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, really good. So that was for sort of like a communications and PR company who I've worked for quite a bit, the Amelia Group. And so I've been involved with tennis like for so long now. So I've just been lucky enough to develop contacts through that and through previous coaches and stuff. So, and like you said, I think it is a common theme. If you still want to remain in the sports world, you often go to that side of things, because I think often people say that's the closest you're going to be to the action when you're not actually the athlete. Yeah. Which I think it's probably true, to be honest. Like I feel like you still get a little bit of a buzz when you're on live or you're doing stuff like this, where it's in the moment and things like that. So I think definitely people who have played sport want to find that feeling of like you got sort of butterflies in your stomach, and you can't really replicate that, but I think that's the closest you'd get.
Oh yeah, I was gonna mention that actually. When you are watching, you commentate and you're doing the media for this tennis, are you kind of thinking, I wish I was there, or are you quite happy, being behind it?
Yeah. Oh, I think now I'm happy where I am, but I think at the start when I first started working in tennis, it was sort of at the lower levels of the game. I think that's how everyone starts off, right? So, that I did struggle with that, because I was like, I wish I was here. Like I was a bit like low key, not depressed, but like, I wish I was there, because, and you sort of second guess yourself and question, if I had kept going, would I have been here? Am I doing the right thing? So that was difficult, but I sort of knew that with time it would get easier, and you have to be true to yourself.
You kind of,
honestly,
yeah.
if I could have done it, I would have been there. So
you kind of just have to face it a little bit.
Yeah, a little
sometimes.
bit.
But
yeah, just sort of.
I mean, I obviously football-wise, I faced that a lot earlier than you did, realising I wasn't going to get anywhere. But it is tough. Do you know what I mean? It is tough to kind of say, look, you know, every kid's dream, in my case, is being a footballer. It is tough to kind of say, look, it's just not going to happen. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it just takes time. I think with a lot like things like that, and it takes conversations with people, but I also think finding a new challenge for yourself is what keeps you going, and then you look ahead to that. I don't know what has that been for you in the last few years?
For me, again, it's kind of similar to you. I've been very much focused more on kind of education, media. Obviously, you know, this is my 4th year here.
In a row.
Yeah, I know.
No wonder you're tired.
I know. I need Christmas, to be honest.
I've had a year off, kind of.
So for me, it's kind of the same. I realised early on that I just wasn't going to make it. So maybe it was, and obviously I never got to in your case, never got to the level you did in tennis, where I was, you know, playing number 1 and 2 and all this. So for me, it was a lot easier. But I do kind of want to go into what you said a little bit about. You said you know, when we're doing the live stuff here, we're doing the live broadcast, we're doing the streams, you kind of still get that buzz. How does that compare to the buzz? Because obviously we've both been in the directing rooms and the galleries when the streams are going on. It is exciting. It is a buzz. How does that compare to, you know, when you're playing these big tournaments?
Yeah, it is weird. Like, it is. There are definitely similarities. Yeah. But then I guess I sort of see the stuff we're doing now with the lives and stuff as a bit of it is a performance. It's like a show. Yeah. I don't know if you did any of these when you were younger, but I just remember I was a big part in the Jungle Book when I was in like year 4. I was Baloo. Yeah. And that might seem a bit random, but like there is sort of a buzz around that. I do remember it. Like, you know, you're on stage. I mean, I was really young then, but yeah, there is that. You sort of get your camaraderie with your other I don't know what you call them, actors. Yeah. And after the show, you're like, oh, you're a bit sad because you've been in there all week doing your performances, and you're like, oh, I'm actually gutted now. It's all done. And it's a bit like that. Like, we'll probably go home today and we'll be like, okay, thank God that's over. But we'll probably miss each other quite a bit. So we've been the only people we've seen for the last like 3 months. So in that sense, that's more of a team sort of camaraderie, and feeling. But compared to the tennis court, you're obviously on your own. Obviously, there have been scenarios when I've been in a team, and that's what I love the most, really. But I think when you are on your own, you have that satisfaction when you've had a good match and you walk off. You're like, wow, I've done something pretty amazing there, which I didn't think I could do. I don't know if you get a big win or something. So I think that's tough to replicate. So that's probably a bit of a difference there. Whereas because this stuff is all so team orientated, we couldn't do any of it without each other. But there is that you can't replicate that feeling of feeling absolutely knackered. I don't know, you might have come over cramp or something, which did a couple of times, which I always found tough. That's tough to replicate. You just don't get that feeling of satisfaction. It's not quite the same.
And do you miss it? Kind of obviously still playing, but do you miss like playing at the high level you were?
I do. Yeah, I do. I miss the feelings we were just speaking about. It's a weird thing, like when tennis, I don't know, there's just that feeling of hitting a ball well that is like really satisfying. Yeah. So I miss that sort of thing, miss getting the occasional like good win. Didn't get many of them, but at the same time, seeing what people are going through, every sport is tough, but having been in tennis a little bit, I understand how tough it is at the lower end of the game. Trying to make it, like we all say. So it's brutal. Like, you're losing money every week. You're not living in really good conditions when you're traveling around the world trying to save money. It's stressful. So to be honest, do I wish I was doing that? Probably not. I'd rather be earning money and living a good life and keeping fit, going to the gym and having that time to do that. So I do miss it, but I'm glad where I am, probably.
So explain to me a little bit, obviously from someone outside of the tennis world a little bit, explain to me a little bit the process of a tennis player trying to make it pro and how hard that is.
Yeah, so it is tough, the process. So you'd start like anyone in your own country playing county, I guess, county, regional, and even before that you play club. Like, that's how everyone starts, no matter who you are. That's how that's how Murray started back in Scotland in the early days. And then, you play little tournaments, you gradually increase your ranking and rating, and there's stages. Like, so you go through county, then you might get to, I guess, national level tournaments. And, you're not obviously earning any money as a junior, relying on parents' money. And maybe if you're good enough, probably 5-10 players in the country would get any sort of funding. That's it.
Okay.
Like, no one else is getting any help.
Yeah.
And then if you're good enough, you then progress to the International Tennis Federation tournaments. We call them the ITF tournaments. Then you're traveling a little bit more around Europe. Maybe further afield, but probably not when you're still under 16 sort of level. And then again, if you're good enough, you then go to, if you're really good, you're probably top 200 in the world as a junior. You then play like the Junior Grand Slams, which are take place in the second week of the Australian Open, Wimbledon, US Open, where the main players are obviously playing in the stadiums, and then the juniors play their tournament on the outside courts. But yeah, if you have to be top 200, 300 in the world to be doing that as a junior. And then you progress to the professional circuit when you turn 18. And you play again the ITS. You have to go all the way back to the bottom because you go up an age group into the adult ranks, and then you have to start working your way up again. So
it's a bit of a tough.
Yeah.
So it's a tough place to get to, essentially, is what it's saying, to actually become that level where you can rely on purely playing tennis as a living. Because that's another thing I kind of want to get into. Like, what do you think about it? It's tough to kind of be an athlete and know that you're, unless you are the most elite of elite, you can't make a living off this. Do you think that kind of would, demotivate people a little bit, knowing that how good you have to actually be to kind of get to that level?
Yeah, I don't know. I think definitely it depends on your personality.
Yeah.
I think there is the people that it probably would demotivate are the ones that have probably more going on in their life, like they've got a good social friendship group, and they'll probably be thinking, look, why am I doing this? I'll have a good life if I'm not doing this, and they get a bit pissed off with how things are going, and they're the ones that tend to get a bit demotivated early on and lean towards the sort of social aspect as a junior, and then get into work. I guess the motivated ones are maybe definitely the more people that are suited to tennis would be like, no, I'm gonna do this because this is what I set out to do, and they just push towards that goal no matter what comes at them. But if they're going to do that, they sacrifice everything else. So it depends on the personality, to be honest.
Do you think it happened to you at all, getting a bit demotivated about it at any point?
Yeah, for sure. It goes through stages. I had moments where I was like, oh, bloody hell, what am I doing?
Yeah.
But then it takes, like, I don't know. For me, I was used to, like, I don't know if you watched BBC Sports Personality of the Year last night, but I was watching that, and just things like that get you so motivated.
Yeah.
And so little things like that you'd watch sort of growing up, and you're like, oh, okay, I might have had a day or two where I'm feeling demotivated, but that just gets you going again. You're like, yeah, I'm fine now, let's crack on. I had moments of that, but I was a fairly like goal-orientated, goal-driven person growing up. So maybe not so much for me. Just didn't get there in the end.
It happens. So kind of going back to the start a little bit, I want to ask a little bit about growing up with tennis, inspirations in tennis. Firstly, who were there?
Andy Murray. His golden years were sort of my crucial years, sort of getting into tennis. So him.
Do you remember where you were when you first won that Wimbledon? Or
yeah, of course. Yeah. 2013. I was sitting on the floor in my sitting room with my dad.
Nice.
Dad came over from Australia. No one else was there actually, but that was big. Okay, I remember it very clearly.
Yeah. Anyone else growing up?
I mean, he was the tennis idol. I mean, I had inspirations, sort of. Probably a lot of people say this, but my family were a big inspiration because I wanted to sort of prove to them that I was, working towards this goal, and they all like really very supportive. So that was probably maybe not as much as an inspiration, but a motivation. And also, mum, dad, brother and sister worked very hard at what they did, so I wanted to sort of show that in what I was doing. So yeah, maybe that was the biggest inspiration, motivation, I guess.
And where has tennis where's the best place tennis has really taken you? You know, obviously you're met number one, which is obviously a really good achievement. But where's kind of the best place or event that tennis has taken you?
Yeah, good question. I think here's a good story. I was playing this competition. This isn't the answer. I'll give you the answer in a sec. But I was playing this competition called the Necker Cup, and I was, I think it was under 14 age group, and basically it was this just competition set up, actually by Virgin Active, you know, the health and rackets company, which obviously was headed up by Richard Branson. So I don't know if it was his idea, but he put the funding in for this competition, and so it had a county tournament, which was essentially the qualifier to get into the national stage. I'm from Sussex, and I was fairly highly ranked in Sussex. I think it might have been number one at the time. So luckily I was like, right, I backed myself to get through it. I got through that, and then you get to the national stage. And then there was 16 players that were competing for this prize, and the prize was a free trip to Necker Island, which is, I don't know if it's a Caribbean island, but it's basically Richard Branson's owned island. And you'd go there, you'd play like an exhibition event, you'd meet him, you'd go with one other person, you'd take a family member, so I would have taken mum. And so obviously like big prize, you really want to win that. Anyway, so 16 players, I was one of the worst on paper. I should not have been doing any well. Eventually got through a couple of rounds, and I think there was 4 rounds to get to. That would make sense if there's 16 players. So got through round 1, got through round 2, and the format was just 10 points. So one match was just a 10-point tiebreak. Right, okay. So it's quite quick. Yeah. And then when you got to the semi-finals and final, I think it was best of 3. In fact, it might have been best of 3 to 10-point tiebreaks for all of it. Quick format, no messing around, get through it. That probably helped my cause, because if I wasn't as good as them, at least they didn't have too long to bully me around for. Anyway, got to the final, and I was like, holy moly. I'm
sure you can swear. I don't know what the rules are for this, but I'm sure you can.
I was like, right, 10 or so points away from like getting a free holiday with mum. Like that would pay mum back for a few of those sort of car trips, journeys. And won a set. It got to the last few points, and then ended up losing it 10-7. So I was literally 3 points away from getting a free holiday, and that would have been the best place that tennis has taken me. So apologies, that was kind of long.
No, that's fine.
So that would have been, I was gutted. That still kills me today, actually.
And how old were you then?
I was 13.
Oh, wow, okay, so it stuck with you a little bit.
Brutal.
Then.
I was snapping. So was mum.
Yeah.
She was like snapping after. I was just like, fair enough, We were like make sure you get the swimmers in the suitcase. We were already packing our bags.
You're ready to go.
But no, I think the best place it's taken me, the most memorable place, has been Florida. Okay. We went on a trip with school, it was sort of school/tennis academy over there to check out a few universities for us when we were sort of looking at universities to go to. And we went to the National Center, the USTA, and in Orlando, Florida, and it was unbelievable. Yeah, so amazing. Just tennis paradise. You got 20, 30 courts, different surfaces. Unbelievable. Look it up if you listening.
I will, actually. You talked about surfaces then. This is kind of, again, from a tennis outsider's point of view. Yeah. What are the kind of the key differences between the different surfaces, and what's your kind of favourite to play on?
I guess key differences are how quick the courts are, how high they make the ball bounce is another factor, and then also your movement. So those are probably the 3 variables. Movement-wise, you've obviously got clay where you're sliding a lot more. Essentially you sort of have to slide on clay. Yeah. You're actually told to not to unless you have to, but you sort of have to be able to be quite a good mover. Obviously now the game's developed so much that you actually slide on hard courts too, like Djokovic is always sliding around. In terms of height, bounces of the ball, clay bounces the highest. It just bounces up. know exactly why, the mechanics of it. Obviously, grass tends to stay lower because I guess softer surface, and then the surfaces that sort of a softer grass court carpet, they're obviously very quick. So those are the main variables. For me, I preferred probably an outdoor hard court. I quite liked still having some tough conditions to deal with. I felt like that gave me an extra edge because I felt like I was mentally fairly good at dealing with external sort of factors. And especially as a junior, kids used to get so pissed off at the wind and stuff like that, where I was like, right, I might not be as good as them level-wise, but if I can use that to my advantage and keep my head, then it might get me a win. So, yeah, probably outdoor hard court.
Okay.
Yeah.
And kind of coming back to your media side of it now, because that is kind of the main focus at the moment. I mean, we can both say how busy we are with this course at the moment. Going forward, are you is your mindset now, I want to work in media and ideally I want that to be tennis? Or are you quite open to the idea of, broaden it out a little bit?
I think at the start of the course, I was fairly set on tennis, and that's just where I was most comfortable in and had done most of my sort of last work in my last couple of years. But now, just having spoken to people and, done all the stuff we've been doing, I think I'd be very happy to go into other areas. I think what I've heard a lot is that like good broadcasters can basically do any sport.
Yeah.
So I've sort of taken that on board and said, right, that's a good goal to have. Try and get a bit more, be more happy to do various stuff and put your foot in different things. So I guess if I was given the opportunity to work in tennis, then I'd take it, but also happy to delve into other things. What have you preferred?
For me, obviously football would be the ideal.
Yeah.
But then, you look at the football industry and it is just huge. And it's so as big as it is, it's really hard to kind of crack into.
Yeah, it's still very condensed, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. And you can go to the punditry side and all that. That's all ex-footballers. Yeah. And if you're going to be a presenter, that's kind of out of the way. So as broad as it is still kind of a really hard industry to crack. So I've said openly that I'd very much go into any other sports. Yeah. Obviously, it's a lot harder when you don't know the other sports. Obviously, you did football commentary the other week, which I thought you did really well at.
It's tough, though.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's tough. So, I mean, if you asked me to come and do a tennis, I'd struggle. I really would struggle. So I would be, I'd be very open to kind of trying out to do new stuff, but it's just learning that sport. And it's just, everything you do, you want to be as good as you can at.
That's one of the things I would love. I would love us to do a tennis match and get...
Well, that's the thing,
I just would find it so funny. I'm sure you'd be all pretty good, to be fair, but it's just terminology as well. Like, that's where I struggle so much in football. It's just like, what am I saying? I don't have the football terminology needed. Like, you could get by, but...
Well, this is the thing. Anyone can say, anyone can say, oh, look, they've hit it. That was a good shot.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's backhands for one. But other than that, that's it.
Yeah.
It's kind of knowing...
Yeah, little intricacies.
Yeah, it's knowing all the little bits about it.
Yeah.
How have you found kind of coming to terms with new sports? Obviously, tennis was your main one. How have you, as you mentioned it then, you've learned a bit more. How have you found kind of going to the football commentary side and the presenting side? And obviously, we do so many different things on this course. How have you found the new elements and what are you kind of enjoying the most?
Yeah, I found that, I found, to be fair, that you can get through it. Like, it's not... Before football commentary, I was like, oh, this could be really bad. Like, I could just not know what to say at all. But I found that whatever you do, you do get through it. Like, you find a way.
Sure, yeah.
And it's not actually as bad as you may think it is. Like, I know everyone's being nice, but there probably is an element of truth where you're like, yeah, it was actually all right. Like, it wasn't actually that bad. And that's the same for everyone. I think, people might think that it wasn't that great, but it's actually fine. I think everyone's pretty clued up on what they're doing, and we're only going to get better and better from here. So I found it's actually better than you think. That's one thing. Also found that, again, and I sort of knew this before, but doing it, just the research is sort of so key, isn't it? You gotta know your stuff. You gotta have stuff to fall back on. Even in things like later today, like I'm presenting with Ayana, another girl on our course, and like in the next few hours after this, we'll need to do a lot of prep work to make sure we know the background of the athletics girl that's coming on, who hit a PB on the weekend in her 300 meters and stuff like that. We'll have her on for like 4 minutes, and so you've got to have enough info to be able to ask her questions on everything and be prepared for what she's going to say and stuff. So yeah, in athletics, I don't, again, know absolutely nothing about. So yeah, research again is going to be key.
It kind of goes back to that kind of buzz a little bit, because obviously, I presented a few weeks ago the Loughborough game, and for that, that was tough. That was tough purely because, like at the media undergrad course, we did a lot of, talking to camera. We never did it live. We never did any live stuff. So this was my first time doing a live presenting stream, and it's hard. It's really tough, especially when rugby isn't my first sport again. So you're doing interviews after the game, and you're asking, how'd it go? You're not asking detailed questions because you just don't know.
I suppose that is why I quite like being that presenter role, because like I feel like, and so you're just like good at asking questions, and some presenters, they'll know a good amount about the sport, but they're not necessarily that clued up. So I probably prefer that to being that sort of pundit where you're like,
well, it is tough, but it is also, like as you said as before, it is like a bit of a buzz and a bit of an excitement to kind of be in that role. Going forward, what are your kind of plans in terms of, are you going to continue to try and play tennis going forward? And media-wise, what's your kind of almost dream in that industry?
On the tennis side, I still play. I still get a lot of enjoyment out of playing. I was saying to Neve and Georgie on one of their episodes, actually, like they said some question about the tennis, and I said, well, I just keep on playing because I just enjoy it, and it's sort of been a safe space. Sort of anything that goes on in my life, like good or bad, I know that if I step onto a tennis court, things feel all right, and I just crack on. So I'll keep on playing for that side of things, and keeping fit. But competition-wise, probably not that much. There's just no time, as you know. But goals within broadcasting. Again, just keep on learning stuff on this course. Still getting a lot wrong, and still a lot could do better. So just keep on being willing to adapt and accepting. Like I get annoyed at myself, quite self-critical about getting little things wrong, but just being sort of open to the fact that that's why I'm on the course. Like, why would we be on it if we're if we're perfect? So just still keeping that in my mind. But then goals would be, I guess, get into work afterwards, and I want to freelance afterwards. I don't really want to go into a company.
No,
I don't know about you, what your goal
I freelance. I haven't looked into it. I mean, the thing with freelancing is it is all about your portfolio and your CV, and if it's good enough. And this is kind of, you come back to you saying about the self-criticising thing. That's massive for me. I mean, I think it's hard when you're in a room full of 17 people. Everyone's good at different things. It's natural to just compare yourself. And I've done that a lot, and it's
true.
And I think that kind of reflects the whole industry a little bit. It's just you see these people making this, doing that, and it's like, why am I not at that level? Do you see what I mean a little bit? And it's so I think that's kind of one of the struggling media. Did you have that in tennis at all? Like comparing yourself at all to other people? Because I feel like, especially me in media, I do that a lot more than I ever did in football.
Really?
Do you ever have that at all?
Do you mean in the tennis, like playing?
Yeah, like playing wise. Did you ever compare yourself? Because in the media, it is quite natural to do.
Yeah, for sure. I think, that, I mean, you shouldn't, like, if a coach is telling you shouldn't compare yourself, because everyone's at different stages. People develop late, people develop early, got different physiques at different times, and that obviously plays a big part in the game. But I did, for sure. I guess I'd think about, maybe peers that I was with at school, and I was like, oh, why are they, in training I would beat this guy fine. Why is he then doing better on the weekends at tournaments or things like that? So for sure I would, but you shouldn't. I mean, I was speaking with a player, an old friend who is now a top 100 tennis player, Sonne Cartel, and she is. I was speaking to her on the weekend. She was saying how one of her main things is just not comparing herself to others, and that was her advice she gave to sort of younger players, because she's had loads of injury struggles. She gave up for, I think it must have been like at least a year when she was maybe 15, 16, I think, and really struggled. But now is one of the best in the world. So it just shows you can't really compare yourself to others, and until it's all done and dusted. You
mentioned injuries there. First, have you had anything at all injury-wise in your career that's kind of faulted you a little bit?
I've been pretty lucky, and nothing too major that's kept me out for too long. Like little niggles, like I've been out for a few weeks here and there with back issues or, I don't know, tennis elbow or something like that. But no, I've been lucky. And, I think I've been pretty good with, like, I always used to stretch a hell of a lot and keep that. So I guess I could, pat myself on the back for that. That might be a reason why I was fairly, injury-free. But it's been all right, to be fair.
Because injuries as a whole is something that, I broke my leg. But
I remember, what year was that?
Oh, this was before uni. This was before uni.
For some reason I thought I've seen you on crutches before.
You probably have. So obviously I broke my leg, but it wasn't in sport. I feel like injuries, and especially in tennis where it is so hard to kind of build your way up them rankings, I feel like injuries are something that, and I spoke to Jamie Bolsh, the runner, on one of the other episodes, and he was very lucky as well with injuries. He flew through his career. Do you kind of think that it isn't a good idea for people to kind of have that plan B almost in case? Because obviously you could be one of the best tennis players in the country, and if you get a bad injury, that can drop you right back to the bottom again. How important is it to have that kind of backup plan, essentially?
Yeah, it is very important. I mean, again, it's sort of said throughout your tennis career, especially at the beginning of it, like you got to have a backup, because you can be the best junior in the world, but it has by no means guarantees you're going to earn a living off it. And if you don't have any backup, then you really are screwed a little bit, because you've got nothing else to fall on, and essentially all you have is coaching, which you probably want to have a little bit more, a few more options than that. It is very important, whether that's being in school and getting some sort of certificates in GCSE and A-level, or it doesn't necessarily, that's a good base to have, but it could be external. I don't know, go and do a fucking cooking course or something. Just just have other options
something
that you
else,
can go into, for sure.
So you mentioned then about coaching. Sorry, that's something. Mentioned about coaching. Is that something you'd ever kind of think about going into, tennis coaching?
Well, it has been something I've thought about. I actually went to, in my year off between undergrad and this year, I went to Spain to coach / play at an academy. I was still sort of wanting to live the dream of playing tennis. Don't know why I was doing that. But to sort of fund that and help me train, I was coaching there as well. So I did try it. Probably a silly decision. I've never been into coaching. I've always just absolutely hated it. Just really haven't enjoyed it. Don't think I'm any good. Really have no confidence in what I'm saying. Because it is different, I think, to playing and trying to relay that to someone else. It's actually really tough. So I'm sure, some people I think have that or they don't. I don't think I do. So I have thought about it, but definitely not for me.
100%. I think that kind of in coaching, you know what you want to say.
Exactly.
But it's just letting other people know that.
Yeah.
And it's almost like you don't want to get frustrated because they're not understanding it.
Yeah.
Because essentially you just can't, relay that information a little bit.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I do fully get that with coaching.
Yeah.
Final question then. So what is your biggest achievement to date, tennis-wise? Or media-wise, whatever.
Probably. Again, I was sort of lucky to be in this situation when I was younger. It was only because my school team, we were also operated as like a club as well. We won the national a national tournament, which made us the best club team in the country, and as a result of that, 2 of us got to go and play for England against Scotland, Wales, and Ireland in like this Four Nations tournament.
Yeah.
And so yeah, technically, I guess we got to represent England. So that was unbelievable. Like when that had happened, and I think I was 18 at the time. Yeah, I was like, oh, I can hang up the rackets now. Like that's really cool that I can say that.
Yeah.
And again, like I wasn't the top one in the country, so I wasn't the best in England, but we still got to represent England, and that was probably best thing for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. Alex, thank you very much for that. A bit of a different one, a bit more conversation-based one today.
Yeah.
Appreciate your time, and thank you very much.